Hey folks, Eric here, the Whatever Guy, because it really is whatever me. Do you folks want to know about an Arizona bill that targets marijuana social equity license grabs by corporations? You guys stick around, man, and we'll talk about that. As you guys know, my name is Eric. I'm the Whatever Guy. I usually shoot videos a couple days a week, basically keeping you guys updated in the world of Delta 8, Delta 9, Delta 10, hemp, cannabis, just what's going on around. We're sitting here bullshitting around on an early Wednesday morning, getting ready to talk to you guys about this bill that basically targets social marijuana social equity licenses in the state of Arizona. Having said that, man, as you guys know, man, we have been following this Alabama medical marijuana debacle for quite some time. Now, as we have moved through this process, we know that we're tied up in court, basically with the integrated facility licenses, and dispensaries are actually being held up with a stay. Their temporary restraining order, basically. And what it boils down to now is we find out, my question has always been like, is Trulieve the only company in the state of Alabama that we could find to give a minority owned business license to in the state? Like, is that the only, like there's no way that you can tell me that they were the only ones. We've covered news articles and people on this channel right here that would have been more than qualified for that social equity vertically integrated license that Trulieve got. Like, we ended up going with an MSO, a multi-state operator out of state that operates in many states, that's obviously very aggressive in the way they do things. Obviously, their money gets thrown around quite a bit, and now they've thrown their money behind the AMCC, and they have basically backed the AMCC, and the AMCC has basically joined them in a dismissal of these temporary restraining orders so that they can move forward with these licenses right here. And like I said many times before, I can agree with most everybody that got a license, but I can't agree with Trulieve. Like, I don't understand how Trulieve got involved. I got to believe that there's been some money that's been passed around, especially the way the vote went when they voted for those integrated licenses. I mean, they skipped over several minority-owned businesses that scored above Trulieve to get to the point where they could vote for Trulieve. It's a crazy situation right now. And now, looking at this article right here, I get an opportunity to understand exactly why Trulieve would have wanted to, enter the license game in the state of Alabama as a minority-owned business. We're going to flip over here to an article over at, I believe this is over at Marijuana Moment, and we're going to take a look at it and see what it says. And in this article, like I said, we're going to find out some really cool information on how these big corporations are actually stealing these minority-owned social equity licenses from investors. It says Arizona bill aims to claw back marijuana social equity licenses from investors and corporate dispensaries. Let's move down here. It says Arizona lawmakers are pushing to return social equity licenses for marijuana dispensaries to their original owners, alleging private investors and cannabis corporations use predatory tactics to seize control of nearly all the lucrative licenses. Senate Bill 1262, introduced by Republican Senator Sonny Borelli, seeks to restore power to those states' social equity program was actually meant to benefit people from marginalized communities disproportionately affected by past marijuana convictions. It would also allow the state attorneys general to investigate and punish entities that exploited those individuals. What we have here is an injustice that needs to be fixed, said Borelli on February 13th at a Senate hearing. We now have here in the Arizona situation where 24 of 26 of these social equity licenses are now fully controlled by companies or people who do not belong in these special groups to get the license. The legislation comes less than a year after extensive reporting by ASCure showed the social equity program, part of the 2020 ballot initiative that legalized recreational marijuana in Arizona, was not working as intended, with powerful players hijacking much of the process. Today, just one original applicant fully owns their social equity license as an open a dispensary independent of large cannabis companies. Only one out of 26, guys. Another two partnered with prominent brands to launch dispensaries, though they still have equity in their licenses. The other 23 licenses are owned by investors and corporations that go by familiar names like Soulflower, Mint Cannabis, Mojave Cannabis, Jars Cannabis, and Story Cannabis. I think the only one we're missing here, guys, is Trulieve. The way this social equity license thing is supposed to work is that people that apply for it are supposed to maintain the 51% ownership, said Borelli said. Instead, many applicants signed agreements with financial backers who later muscled them out, he explained. Technically, the people that are supposed to have social equity licenses don't get it. The ones that do have the social equity license would not qualify for it in the first place. Whether you agree with the marijuana business or not, it's completely unfair. Through SB 1262, advanced out of the Senate's Health and Human Services Committee with unanimous bipartisan support, the bill faces a steep climb because it involves a voter-backed initiative. It will require the approval of 3/4 of the House and Senate to become law. But if it succeeds, the measure will create a new state-backed avenue for squeezed-out social equity license holders to fight back. Last July, for instance, ASCure detailed the story of Denzel Mason, a South Phoenix resident recruited by cannabis powerhouse Copperstone Farms to apply for a social equity license. Copper State which has one of the largest indoor grow facilities in the country and 9 Soulflower branded dispensaries throughout Arizona, found Mason and other potential partners through a program dubbed Your Bright Horizon, ultimately submitting 106 applications alongside its social equity counterparts. When the Arizona Department of Health chose winners from more than 1,300 applicants in its April 2022 lottery, Copper State and its partners secured 3 licenses, including the one it applied for with Mason, who'd worked in the cannabis industry for years and intended to open his own dispensary. But the parties soon ended up in a legal battle involving an operating agreement Mason had signed prior to the lottery, with Copper State claiming the LLC Mason jointly owned with Your Bright Horizon owed the company up to $3 million. About $800,000 would have partially reimbursed Copper State for what it allegedly spent to participate in the social equity program, including the community outreach efforts it used to recruit Mason and others. The court eventually sided with Copper State after Mason balked at those terms, temporarily removing Mason as manager in the business. A few months later, Copper State bought Mason's stake of the license out for an undisclosed amount. Mason did not respond by press time to request for comment on SB 1262, which would give him and other original license holders a way to report and potentially take back control from investors and corporations they believe targeted them with predatory agreements. SB 1262 defines a predatory agreement as any agreement signed before or within 12 months after a social equity license was issued that required the original principal officer or board member to sell, transfer, or give control of the officers or members' ownership interest for less than minimum fair market value. The fair market value element could be particularly relevant in another case highlighted by ASCAR, that of Tucson resident Annabelle Vasquez. Vasquez was one of 140 social equity license applicants who partnered with investor Michael Halo through Wyoming-based LLC Helping Hands, and one of 5 in that group that prevailed in ADHS's digital lottery. But Vasquez, who is not a native English speaker, no longer has a stake in her license. Though she did not initially enter into an operating agreement with Halo, she did sign a contract stating disputes would be handled through arbitration. And in July 2023, an arbitrator decided to transfer the social equity license, which Vasquez had moved to another business, back to Helping Hands. So far, Vasquez has not been compensated for her majority share of the license, according to arbitration records obtained by ASCAR. Instead, the arbitrator ruled that Vasquez must pay Halo's attorney's fees. SB 1262 will absolutely help all the social equity winners that were subjected to predatory agreements to get their licenses back, said Renee Mendoza, Vasquez's longtime partner. This program is supposed to be for social equity, not for rich people who already have licenses. And guys, I can see down the road how this arbitrary shit and all this other, this arbitration and all this legal stuff, when you're sitting on the other side of it and these big investors have stepped to you and they want you to apply for this minority license and you don't have any fucking money, they've got all the fucking money. When you go to fight it in fucking court, you're going to lose. You're going to lose every time. These people were basically robbed of their licenses all the way around. And as a matter of fact, that's probably what's going to happen in the state of Alabama. We are watching a debacle happening in the state of Alabama with TruLeaf being the only minority owned integrated facility license in the state of Alabama. Like, we jumped over 2 or 3 other people that were more qualified than TruLeaf that were longtime residents of the state of Alabama. And here we are going to fall into a situation where we're going to end up doing something like this in Alabama. Like, this Arizona thing right here is, I'm telling you right now, this Arizona thing right now, 5 years from now, you guys can come back and watch this video. In 5 years, we will be having the same conversation about Alabama, and TruLeaf will be involved in it at that time. All right, folks, this is Whatever Guy signing off, and I'll talk to you guys later, man. Love it. See ya.